They say life never warns you before it changes everything. No trumpet blares. No sign drops from the sky. No movie-style slow-motion montage. It just happens. 1 minute you're heating up leftovers, wondering if you'll ever catch a break, and the next, there's a knock at your door that splits your life clean in two. I opened the door that evening expecting a neighbor, maybe a delivery I forgot I ordered. Instead, it was Lena. My sister, and her son, Danny. He was 2. Small, quiet, with messy curls and the kind of big brown eyes that made you feel like you owed him something just for existing. Lena stood there like she hadn't vanished for a year and a half, like she hadn't missed birthdays and holidays and entire seasons of my life. Her face was thinner, framed by poorly dyed blonde hair, and her eyes darted everywhere except at mine. "I need you to take him," she said. "No hello. No how have you been?" Just that, like she was handing me a grocery bag. I stared at her. Then at Danny. He clutched her leg, clearly exhausted and a little scared. His backpack was stained and half unzipped, filled with what looked like a couple of toys and an old baby blanket. "You what?" I asked. "I can't do this, Athens. I've tried. I've really tried. But I'm not cut out for this mom stuff. I don't have help. I don't have money. I just need to figure things out. You get it, right? Just for a little while. Please." I didn't know whether to scream or pull her into a hug. There was so much I wanted to say. Where the hell have you been? What the hell are you thinking? How could you leave your son like this? But none of it came out, because Danny looked up at me right then. And I saw myself, years ago, at his age, standing in the hallway while our parents screamed behind locked doors. I remembered the way Lena used to grab my hand and whisper, "Come on, let's go pretend we're somewhere else." And I realized I had to be that person now. The safe one. The quiet harbor. So I bent down and said, "Hi, Danny. Want to come in and help me pick out a bedtime story?" He nodded. No words. Just a slow, solemn nod. And that was the beginning. Lena stayed for exactly 10 minutes after that. She didn't kiss him goodbye. She didn't say when she'd be back. She just slipped out like a ghost, and that's how I became a mother. They say the hardest part of becoming a parent is not the diapers, not the sleepless nights, not even the sacrifice. It's the choice, the moment you decide, this child is mine now. Even when you didn't ask for it. Even when you weren't ready. Even when it came wrapped in silence and abandonment. The night Lena left Danny with me was the beginning of my second life. The first ended the moment I closed the door behind her and turned to face that tiny boy clinging to his threadbare blanket. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with Danny curled beside me, one little hand fisted in my shirt. Every time I tried to move, he whimpered. So I stayed still, watching the city lights flicker through the window, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do. I wasn't a mother. I was 28, single, barely making rent in a cramped apartment, working 2 jobs and holding my sanity together with expired coffee and stubbornness. I had plants I couldn't keep alive, and suddenly I had a child, but I didn't hesitate. Because that kid had no one else. Lena disappeared without a forwarding number. And every call I made to her phone went straight to voicemail. I tried, though. God, I tried. In the weeks that followed, I left messages every day. "Hey, Lena, just checking in. Danny's doing okay. Call me back. Lena, he asked about you today." I didn't know what to say. "Please come back. At least talk to me. We need to figure this out." I contacted mutual friends. Most hadn't heard from her. The few who had said she was couch surfing, jobless, maybe using again. I held on to hope until that too felt foolish. Danny didn't speak for the first 3 months. Not a word. Not a giggle, not a cry. Just silence. He followed me around like a shadow, his little face blank, waiting. Like he didn't trust that I wouldn't vanish too, so I anchored myself to routine. I set my alarm for 5 a.m., got him dressed and fed, dropped him at the daycare I could barely afford before heading to my first job. I waited tables from 6:30 to 2 o'clock, then worked as a receptionist until 7 p.m. Sometimes later, I sold my guitar to cover his first round of doctor visits. I canceled my gym membership, stopped going out with friends, stopped dating altogether. My life shrank down to a schedule, to-do lists taped to the fridge, and budgeting spreadsheets that never quite added up, and still, I told myself, you're doing this for him. He deserves better. You're going to give him better. By the time he turned 3, he called me mommy. It was a whisper the first time, barely audible as I tucked him in one night. I froze, staring down at him, tears welling in my eyes. He looked scared, like he thought he did something wrong. I leaned down, kissed his forehead, and said, "That's okay, baby. I'll be your mommy if you want me to be." And that was that. I stopped leaving messages for Lena after 6 months. I stopped hoping she'd come back when she missed his 3rd birthday. That was the day I contacted a lawyer. Getting legal guardianship wasn't simple. I wasn't his biological parent. I had no clue where Lena was. I had no idea who his father was either, she never said. But I was the only one providing for him. The only one taking him to checkups. The only one enrolling him in preschool. It took 6 long months of paperwork, home visits, background checks, interviews. They asked me questions that made me feel like I was on trial. How stable is your income? Do you have medical coverage for him? Do you have plans in place if something happens to you? I answered them all. Not always perfectly. But I answered with the truth. I wasn't perfect, but I showed up. Every single day, and in the end, that was enough. When the papers came through, I cried for an hour. Not because I was scared anymore, but because I finally knew no one could take him from me now. He was mine. Not by blood, but by choice. By effort. By love. And that counts more than DNA ever will. People often ask why I never had kids of my own. The truth? I do. I have a son named Danny. He might not have come from my body, but he came into my life exactly when he was meant to, and I would do it all over again, even the sleepless nights. Even the ramen dinners and missed promotions. Even the crushing exhaustion. Because being his mother, even by accident, was the most intentional thing I've ever done. We grew together both emotionally and financially. Lena reappeared 13 years later. It was a Sunday, mid-September. The kind of golden, breezy day that feels like the world is being kind just because it can. Danny was 17, taller than me now, all limbs and charm and too smart for his own good comebacks. He had just submitted his early applications to MIT and Stanford. We were celebrating with pancakes and too much syrup. That's when she showed up. I didn't recognize her at first. She was standing at the edge of our yard, her arms crossed, 3 children trailing behind her like ducklings. A man I didn't know waited awkwardly by the car. She waved. I froze. Danny followed my gaze and frowned. "Who's that?" I didn't answer. I was too busy remembering. She approached slowly. I could see the years in her eyes, lines she didn't have before, a weariness that looked like it had set in for good. But she smiled like we were old friends, like nothing had ever broken between us. "Wow," she said, looking Danny up and down. "Look how big he got. He looks like his dad." Danny tensed. He didn't say anything. Then she turned to me. "Can we talk?" I wanted to scream. To throw the door in her face. But Danny deserved more than that. He deserved to know what kind of storm was blowing in, so I nodded and led her into the kitchen. The kids she brought, 2 girls and a boy, sat on the porch with juice boxes while her husband stayed in the car, too cowardly to meet my eyes. She didn't waste time. "You've done a great job, really," she said, her eyes scanning the house like she was mentally listing its value. "I mean, wow. Danny's smart, healthy. You raised him well." I waited, but I was thinking. "I mean, I'm back now. I have a family. I want to make things right." And I thought maybe it's only fair if we shared a little of what you saved for him with the others. They're his siblings, after all. I blinked. You mean the college fund? Yes, she said, too quickly. It's not fair for one kid to have everything when the others are struggling. I almost laughed. Struggling? You chose to have 3 more kids after leaving the first one behind. Her smile faltered. Life doesn't always go to plan. No. It doesn't. But I made one. I worked double shifts. I skipped vacations. I gave up promotions so I could attend parent-teacher meetings and doctor appointments and stay up helping with science projects. I planned for his future, Lena. She looked irritated now, like I was the one being unreasonable. So what, you just want to hoard it all? It's not even your money. Technically. It's his. And they're his siblings. They deserve help too. I stood up, chest tight. You abandoned him. You lost any say in what's his the moment you walked away without looking back. You didn't even send a card. I had my reasons. I'm sure you did. But here's the thing, Lena, motherhood isn't something you get to dip in and out of like a summer job. You left. I stayed. End of story. She stood too, but slower, more calculating. This isn't over. You can't gatekeep a child's future because you're bitter. I walked to the door and opened it wide. No. I'm protecting it because I'm his mother in every way that matters. And with that, I watched her climb back into the car and drive off, dragging her chaos back with her. Danny walked in behind me. That was her, he said softly. Wasn't it? Yeah, I said, sitting down, hands trembling. That was Lena. He didn't ask anything else, but his silence said everything. Lena didn't stay quiet for long. I got the first message a week later. It was polite on the surface, just a hi, can we talk? Followed by a smiling emoji like she hadn't tried to slice into my son's future. I ignored it. 3 days after that, I opened the door to find her standing there with all 3 of her kids. No warning. No apology. Just entitlement in human form. Thought it'd be good for them to meet their brother, she said, like we were some happy family reunited on a reality show. Danny was in the living room, frozen mid-step with a bowl of popcorn in hand. His eyes flicked to me, and I could see it, discomfort. That tightening of his jaw, the slight tilt of his shoulders. He didn't want this. He didn't want her, and honestly? Neither did I. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. What are you doing, Lena? They should know each other. Come on, don't be like this. You don't get to show up like this and pretend it's all okay. You haven't called. You haven't asked how he's doing. You just want a piece of what I built. Her kids were behind her, 3 small, wide-eyed children. I didn't blame them. They didn't choose this. But I wasn't going to let Lena weaponize their innocence against me. I'm asking you one last time, I said. Stop this. Go home. Focus on your children. Leave mine out of it. Yours? Her voice sharpened. He's still my son. Legally or not, I gave birth to him. I didn't flinch. Yes. And then you gave him away. That hit her. I saw it in her eyes. But instead of backing off, she doubled down. You think money makes you his real mother? You think a savings account makes up for the fact that he's got nothing of me left in his life? I didn't say what I was thinking, that nothing of her left was probably the only reason Danny had peace. Instead, I lowered my voice and said, Danny isn't some bridge between your failures and your fixes. You don't get to touch what you didn't build. She stormed off after that, dragging her kids along, shouting something about lawyers and rights and you'll see. Danny and I watched from the window in silence. Do you think she'll come back again? He asked. I don't know, I replied honestly. But if she does, I'll handle it. He nodded. Then added, can we just go back to watching the movie? So we did, but inside, I was already preparing for war. Lena made good on her threat. The next week, I got a letter, her name printed boldly across the top, with a lawyer's firm beneath it. My stomach turned. She wanted visitation rights. She wanted to contest the guardianship. She claimed she was in a more stable place now and deserved access. That Danny deserved to reconnect with his roots. It felt like she was trying to rewrite history with a pen and a lie. I called my lawyer immediately. She was calm, firm, ready. She doesn't stand a chance, she said. Your record is clean. You've had legal guardianship for nearly 15 years. She can file whatever she wants, it won't undo what you've done. But I wasn't just worried about courts, I was worried about Danny. He was older now, 17. And he was smart. Too smart. He picked up on things I tried to hide, pain I tried to mask. That night, he came into the kitchen holding the letter. I saw it on the table, he said. I sighed. I didn't want you to worry about it. He slid into the chair across from me, unusually serious. Do I have to see her? Not unless you want to. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, it's weird. I don't remember her face. I remember her leaving, though. I remember you holding me and promising it would be okay. I reached over and took his hand. And it was, wasn't it? Yeah. It was. Because of you. We didn't say much else. But that moment stuck with me, because all these years later, despite everything, Lena still didn't understand. Love isn't about biology. It's about being there. Being steady. Being safe. That's what I gave him. What she never could. The court case came and went like my lawyer predicted, a formality. Lena's claims were flimsy at best. Her stability unraveled the minute they looked at her living situation, her finances, her past records. She never showed up to the final hearing. Instead, I got a final message from her the day after. You turned my own son against me. Hope you're proud. I didn't reply, not because I wasn't proud, but because I was, not for turning Danny against anyone, but for giving him the kind of life where he got to choose who he wanted to love. And he chose me, every day, he chose me, and I'd keep choosing him, until the end. I knew Lena wouldn't go down quietly. The court ruling had barely cooled before she found another way in. This time, she bypassed me altogether. It started when Danny began acting strange. Quiet, but not the usual quiet. Distracted. His phone always tucked under his pillow, a hesitation in his answers when I asked about his day. At first, I thought it was just senior year stress, college applications, grades, decisions about his future. But then I noticed his moods changing. He started asking questions he hadn't before. Do you think people can change? Is it wrong to give someone a second chance? It wasn't long before I figured it out. Lena had gotten to him. He didn't tell me, but I knew. A mother knows. So I checked the phone bill and saw it, repeated calls from a number I didn't recognize. Texts at odd hours. I copied the number, dialed it, and heard her voice on the other end. Oh, she said, smug. So now you care who he talks to? I hung up, but the damage was already starting to spread. That night, I sat Danny down. I didn't accuse. I just opened the door. Are you talking to her? He froze, eyes wide, guilt written all over his face. She reached out. She said she just wanted to talk. To explain. I nodded slowly. Did she? She said you made her leave. That she was sick back then and you told her not to come back. I felt something deep and painful twist in my gut. And do you believe that? He looked away. I don't know what to believe, he said quietly. You never talked about it. You just said she left. She did leave. I took a breath and, for the first time, told him everything. No sugarcoating. No carefully chosen words. She dropped you off in the middle of the night, Danny. Wrapped in a blanket with a note that said, I can't do this. You take him. That's all I had to go on. I tried calling her for weeks. She blocked me. She disappeared. I stood and pulled out the old shoebox I kept buried in the closet. Inside was the note. Faded. Crumpled at the corners. But still intact, I handed it to him. He read it once. Twice. And then a third time, slower. She said you made it up. I didn't. You think I wanted to give up my 20s? My freedom? My career? I chose you because you needed someone. I chose you because she didn't. His face crumpled then, tears slipping down his cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispered. I pulled him into my arms, holding him like I did when he was small and the nightmares woke him up. You have nothing to be sorry for, I whispered back. But don't let her rewrite the story. You lived the truth. He cried in my arms that night. Not because he missed her, but because he was mourning what could have been. 2 days later, he asked to meet her. I hesitated. She hurt you, Danny. I know, he said. But I need to hear it. From her. So I can put it to rest. He wasn't a child anymore. He was 17. Almost a man. I agreed, on the condition that I'd be close by if he needed me. They met at a coffee shop downtown. I waited outside in the car, hands tight on the wheel, eyes locked on the door. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I didn't need to. I saw Lena walk in with her usual performance-ready smile. A hug Danny didn't return. She sat, talked. He nodded, listened. 20 minutes passed. 30. Then she reached into her purse and pulled something out. It was an envelope. I knew what was inside. Money? A letter? Manipulation, most likely, but Danny didn't take it. He pushed it back across the table. Then he stood and walked away. He got into the car silently. Well? I asked. She wanted me to feel sorry for her, he said. Told me I owed her the chance to be in my life again. That she was my real mom, no matter what papers said. I stayed quiet, waiting, and I told her, he continued, that biology doesn't mean anything when someone else showed up for me every day of my life. You're my mother. She's just the woman who left. I reached over and held his hand. He smiled. I think that's the last time I'll ever need to see her. And I believed him. Later that night, he updated his college application. There was a section about parental figures, influences, people who shaped your life. Under mother, he wrote one name, mine. Graduation day was warm. The kind of golden afternoon that makes you believe in new beginnings. Danny stood tall in his cap and gown, his navy robe fluttering in the breeze as I took a million photos, trying to capture every second. I knew this wasn't just a milestone for him. It was ours. Every sleepless night, every second job I took, every skipped vacation or impulse purchase, it had led here. Watching him cross that stage was like exhaling after 17 years of holding my breath. When his name was called, Daniel Gray, valedictorian, I felt my chest tighten in the best way. He gave a short, powerful speech. He didn't mention names. But he didn't need to. Some of us were built by the ones who stayed, not the ones who brought us into the world, but the ones who chose us every day afterward. I cried. I didn't care who saw it. I wept like a fool in the second row, clutching a tissue while everyone applauded. He found me with his eyes in the crowd and gave me a small smile. After the ceremony, we went out for dinner, just the two of us. We toasted with soda. Laughed. Took selfies. I thought, maybe now, finally, peace. But peace doesn't come easy when someone like Lena still thinks she has a claim. The next day, she showed up at our apartment. I almost didn't open the door, but Danny did. She didn't come with smiles this time. She looked tired. Hollow-eyed. But still angry, like the world owed her something. I heard about the fund, she said bluntly. Danny crossed his arms. You mean the one you tried to get a piece of? She ignored that. I deserve to know what it's for. You're my son. I have a right. He didn't flinch. No, you had a right. You lost it when you left. She turned to me then. So? Tell me. What's it for? College? Inheritance? You raised him off my bloodline, you owe me something. I stared at her for a moment before answering. The fund is for him. Every cent. College. Housing. Startup capital. Whatever he wants. It's his life. And you? You're not part of it. She scoffed. I could still sue. Danny stepped forward. Calm. Steady. Strong in a way I never thought I'd see. You've done enough damage. This is the last time we speak. You don't get to touch what you didn't build. He shut the door in her face, and just like that, she was on the other side again, where she had always chosen to be. Weeks passed, college acceptance letters poured in. Harvard, Stanford, MIT. He had his pick of the world. He chose NYU. Close enough to home, but far enough to start his life. The day before he moved into the dorms, I gave him a box. Inside was a folder with everything: bank details, investments, the full scope of the fund. It was more than most kids his age had. I made sure of that. He blinked down at the numbers. You really saved all this? For you, I said. I wanted to make sure you'd never have to depend on anyone who didn't earn your trust. He looked up, misty-eyed. How did you do this? I sacrificed. I planned. I never gave up on you. That's what real parents do. He hugged me tightly. I'm gonna make you proud. You already have. Later that night, we walked through the apartment together. He packed up, and I helped. We laughed at old toys. Cried a little at childhood drawings. At the door, he hugged me again and whispered, "You saved me." And then he was gone. Off to his next chapter. As for Lena, I heard she moved out of state. She tried stirring things up online, telling people I stole her son and poisoned him, but the people who mattered didn't listen. Especially not Danny. He never responded to her messages again. Not on birthdays. Not on holidays. Not when she tried to send photos of his siblings. His silence was his boundary, and she had to live with it. And me? I rest easy knowing I did right by him. I didn't give birth to Danny, but I raised him. I guided him. I loved him fiercely, and that made me his mother, in every way that matters.